Well, welcome back to the third and final installment of the pipe anvil build. I didn't want to bore you guys with watching me weld for half an hour. So I got this thing all welded up, and I stated in the earlier videos that I would show you some additions that I was going to do that Fitzy didn't do on his. So first of all, you can see I got everything all welded up, front and back, top and bottom. I added, that Fitzy doesn't have, I added these foot braces. So I can get a foot on there. If I'm really grunting with a piece of metal, I can brace myself with the foot. Also, I welded a nut. Hopefully you can see that. My camera will cooperate. I welded a nut on here. Well, I welded these two pieces of pipe on the end. I put an end cap on the main pipe on both ends. I welded a nut here, and what that's for is I can stick round bar in there and form a radius over this pipe here. On the opposite end, I welded on a piece of angle iron so I can put flat bar in here and form a radius around it. That particular piece of angle iron might be a little too light. I may end up, boy, I don't know if you can see that or not. There we go. I may end up having to cut that off and go with a heavier piece of angle iron. Boy, I didn't get that on there very straight. But anyway, those are the main differences between mine and Fitzy's. And I'm not suggesting that mine's a better design or anything like that. I adapted this to suit my needs. Fitzy built his for his needs. He's a heck of a fabricator, car builder, great sheet metal guy. I wouldn't even dream of suggesting that I'm doing something better than him, because I'm not. And that's not what it's all about. This is about building something that's useful with what you have on hand, and then sharing that with other folks on YouTube, which is exactly what Fitzy did. And I grabbed his idea from him and then modified it to suit my needs. It's just about sharing information and how we do things. And the way I built this is certainly not the only way. As I stated in an earlier video, you can Google or use the YouTube search engine for pipe anvil, and you're going to get a myriad of different fabricators and their own take on building a pipe anvil. This just happens to be mine. And feel free to use any of these ideas and share them with others. So let's set up the tripod and see how this works. So I've got a piece of, what is it? This is 1/4 inch. 1018, you know, just regular old round bar. I believe it's cold rolled. And so let's see how this works. So you slide one end into the nut, and then you just form this, your radius. There you go. That works pretty good. My feet are a little wobbly on there, although it's sitting on an uneven surface right now, but that's one of the reasons why I put those cross pieces on the bottom, so I could put a foot against this thing and help stabilize it while I'm forming. Let's try the flat bar. This is a piece of 1 inch by 1/8 inch flat bar. Bends really easy. So yeah, that's working fine. All right, we got a piece of 20 gauge galvanized here, about 18 inches square, so just a piece of scrap out of my pile. So let's see how that works. Yeah, hope you can see that. So that's a nice shape. I got one more piece over here. I got a piece of perforated. Just rust out of my scrap collection. This is a piece of, this is probably 18 gauge. 3/16 diameter holes. A lot of you guys building cars, if you want to do custom grill work and stuff like that, this would be something to consider. Okay, got a radius there. Well, if we can go, let's try, let's straighten that back out. Let's go around the smaller diameter here. And again, if I'm pushing away from me, I can put my foot on that brace down there. Yeah, that's a nice tight radius there. And then the opposite end, again, I can brace it with my foot, then I can lean against it too. Myriad of different ways of using this. And there we go. That's a nice tight radius there. Okay, this was a fun build. I enjoyed doing it. As far as how long it took me, I don't know. I take breaks. You know, I'm an old guy. I get sore, I get tired. I'll sit down, have a cup of coffee, and then I'll look at the project. Just kind of eyeball it and let my mind work and come up with other ideas or changes. And I did come up with a couple of changes on this. I ran into a couple of problems, which you're going to do with any project. On reflection, I think I stated it earlier, when you're cutting the uprights, make them a little long, because when you cut your copes on the end of the pipe, you've got to do some grooming. And so that took some of the length off, which is okay. You know, it's still a fine working height for me, still waist high. That's fine. Second thing, you know, when I mentioned making the copes going from to the same diameter pipe, and I said cut it at 45 degrees. Those are the ends I had to work on the most. And I think if you bump that back to 40 degrees instead of 45, you'll probably wind up with a little better fit and a little less grinding and shaping at the end. But overall, it turned out well. Now this is all scrap pipe. I didn't pay a dime for any of this. The biggest chunk came from my buddy Larry Castens. You might remember Larry in several videos prior, a couple of tractor shows with his Galloway engine, and we featured him in a video a couple months back on the Kime Racer. Anyway, Larry's got quite an extensive scrap metal pile. And he was kind enough to give me this piece of 4.5 inch diameter. Everything else I had laying outside. And it's crusty, rusty inside, but hey, I didn't pay anything for it. Same with the 3/16 plate here, the nut, and the angle iron. That's just all scrap I had laying around. All I did was cut it with a grinder and clean it up with a flap disc and a grinder and welded it together. I used 3 cutting wheels on my grinder. Would have actually been 2, but I had one of them come apart on me. So I went through 3, and I was fine when it came apart because I was gloved up, had the heavy leather welding vest on, had my earplugs in, and I had my face shield on. Had the safety gear, so I didn't get hurt. And grinding wheels, cutting wheels will come apart on you. That's just part of the deal of metal fab. Eventually one of those is going to fail, and you know, when they come apart at the high RPMs they come apart at, they can be really painful. Could be a hospital trip. So take an extra few seconds and put the protective gear on. It's worth it. So I went through 3 cut-off wheels. I used one 80 grit flap disc, and I did use my grinding wheel on my big Craftsman, but I mean it hardly has any wear on it at all. So I didn't use up a grinding wheel. And over the course of 2 or 3 days, I think probably a rough guesstimate, I've got 8 hours into this. Like I say, I take lots of breaks, I go in and eat, you know, I'll sit down and have a cup of coffee and look at it, you know, so all that takes time. So probably a total of 8 hours invested in the project, and hey, now I've got a useful sheet metal bender. I can also bend round bar and flat bar. So a 3-in-1 tool. It won't take up that much space in the shop. I just put it up against a wall somewhere, and then when I need it, pull it out and do some sheet metal fabrication. So, okay, that's it. Pipe anvil build. Glad you guys stuck around. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I've been playing in the shop now, and the wife's been waiting for me to pour cement outside, so I got to put away the tools and go fire up a concrete mixer. See you later, everybody.